I feel we are just as good as any of them. I feel we have the same rights as any of them. Because in that constitution, it said that everybody has equal rights and justice. Now this was a quote from Manong Larry Itliong speaking to a group of students at the University of California, Santa Cruz in 1976. Manong Larry Itliong was a Filipino American labor leader who organized farm workers along the West Coast beginning as early as the 1930s. He became well known in the 1960s and the 70s for spearheading the Delano Grape strike and the United Farmworkers movement, teaming up with other labor leaders such as Manong Philip Vera Cruz, Cesar Chavez, and Dolores Huerta to demand farm workers' rights. The 5-year strike won better pay and benefits for agricultural workers and led to the eventual formation of the United Farmworkers. It was one of the most significant labor movements in the history of the United States. It was a multi-ethnic movement whose impact was felt all over the world, and honestly, one of the most pivotal moments in the history of civil rights. But sadly, in comparison to other civil rights leaders, not many people today remember Manong Larry. October is Filipino American History Month, and actually October 25th is also Larry Itliong Day. So in celebration of this month and in honor of Manong Larry, in today's video we will be digging deeper and learning more about the life and the legacy of Manong Larry Itliong. Mabuhay, or in Kapampangan, luwid kayo! Welcome back to another history video. It is me, Kirby Araullo, your friendly Pinoy historian. And if you're new to my channel, in this channel, I make videos about our people's history, culture, and everything in between. So don't forget to like, share this video, comment down below, and please subscribe. I know it's been quite a while since my last video, and I do apologize to everyone, all of you who have been waiting for my next video to come out. I know it's been over 2 months since my last video, and I do apologize. Like, life has been really busy for me offline, and yes, I do have a pretty busy life offline outside of YouTube. So if you would like to know what I've been up to, what's been keeping me busy this past couple of weeks and months, make sure to follow me on social media in the links below. There should be popping out somewhere here. But anyways, without further ado, let's dig deeper and get to know more about Manong Larry Itliong. Like, why did they even call him Seven Fingers? Let's find out. Modesto Larry Dulay Itliong was born on October 25, 1913, in the town of San Nicolas, Pangasinan, a province in northern Philippines. He was among the 6 children of Francesca Dulay Itliong and Artemio Itliong. At an early age, Manong Larry knew he wanted to become a lawyer to fight for the rights of the common people. Manong Larry Itliong belonged to the Manong generation, aka the first major wave of Filipino migrant workers and immigrants in the United States who arrived between the 1900s to the 1930s. And for those who may not know, the term Manong is a term of endearment for an older brother in the Ilocano or Iloco language, because the majority of this wave of Filipino migrant workers in the 1930s were from the Ilocos region. The Manongs were mostly able-bodied young Filipino men who were recruited as a source of exploitable cheap labor when the Philippines was still a US colony. They were enticed and attracted and lured in with the promises of the American dream, only to find hardships and racial discrimination once they arrived in the United States. And so, at the age of 14, Manong Larry Itliong migrated to the US with hopes of earning his law degree. So unknown to many, he first arrived in Alaska in 1929, and then he later found work in different states, from the fisheries and the canneries of Alaska to the railroads of Montana and the vast agricultural fields of California. He would later earn the nickname Seven Fingers after losing 3 of his fingers due to a work-related freak accident. So unknown to many, Manong Larry Itliong, apart from being this fearsome, fearless, and fiery young activist back in the day, Manong Larry was actually also a war hero, and that he can speak more than 12 languages, more than a dozen languages. And so despite only finishing 6th grade back in the Philippines and not being able to pursue his dream of becoming a lawyer in the United States, Manong Larry remained passionately committed to defend the rights of the poor. In 1930, he joined his first strike, and within the same year, he co-founded the Alaska Canneries Workers Union. Manong Larry would soon earn his reputation as a young, fiery activist and a leading figure in labor organizing throughout the West Coast. Apart from Ilocano, Pangasinense, Tagalog, and 6 other Philippine languages, Manong Larry also learned to be fluent in English, Japanese, Cantonese, and Spanish. Manong Larry honed his oratory skills to galvanize the workers. And so, to give courage to his fellow Manongs and to encourage his fellow farm workers, Manong Larry was often heard saying, "Let's go! Don't be scared! I'll be in the front, just follow me!" Unknown to many, Manong Larry Itliong served in the U.S. Army from 1936 to 1943. He later gained his U.S. citizenship in 1944 for his service in World War II. And after returning from the war, Manong Larry wasted no time in resuming his fight for workers' rights. Manong Larry moved to Stockton, California, at the heart of the thriving Filipino American community, and he founded the Filipino Farm Labor Union in 1956. And then the Multi-Ethnic Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, aka AWOC, in 1959. Now, before we continue, I just want to greet the Filipino American National Historical Society fans a happy 40th anniversary. You know, this month, October 2022, is also the 50th anniversary of Filipino American Studies as a field. So shout out and salamat to all my fellow educators and fellow scholars, fellow artists out there, fellow activists out there, you know, who are educating our community, both inside the classrooms and outside the classroom, out in the streets in our communities. Maraming salamat po, mabuhay kayo. Now back to Manong Larry. In May of 1965, Manong Larry led a successful strike of Filipino farm workers in the vineyards of Coachella, California. Yes, the same Coachella that many young people associate with music today was actually a historic site for civil rights in the United States. And this victory in Coachella empowered farm workers throughout California's Central Valley to protest against low wages and miserable working and living conditions. And among their grievances include basic necessities, things we take advantage today, such as clean water and toilets. A little over 3 months later, on September 8, 1965, thousands of Filipino American farm workers led by AWOC went on strike in Delano, California. A visionary leader, Manong Larry crossed racial borders to ask the National Farmworkers Association led by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta to join the Filipino American farm workers on strike. But unknown to many, Cesar Chavez initially declined, believing that the Mexican-American farm workers needed at least 2 more years to be ready. Now fortunately, 8 days later on September 16, 1965, the Mexican-American farm workers walked out and joined the Filipinos on strike. AWOC and NFWA would soon merge to form the United Farmworkers Movement, aka the UFW movement, with Manong Larry Itliong as assistant director. The historic Delano Grape strike would last for 5 years and become one of the most pivotal labor movements in the history of the United States. And in a letter in 1967 to Jose M. Leonidas, Manong Larry Itliong wrote, "May I let you know that it was our people who started the strike. Then our Mexican brothers followed suit. Since then, the cooperation between these two groups has been good. It looks to me that this is the real beginning of a closer relationship between our people." The Delano Grape Strike and the United Farmworkers Movement was indeed a multi-ethnic movement, a powerful grassroots solidarity between peoples of color and allies that lasted for many years. Unknown to many, just like many other workers of color, Filipino American farm workers, aka our beloved Manongs, throughout the US, from the plantations of Hawaii to the fields of California and the canneries of Alaska, they have all experienced decades of abusive and unfair labor conditions long before 1965. There were many strikes that were led and organized over the years, over the decades, but it was not always successful. In fact, whenever Filipino farm workers would go on strike, the the growers, aka the wealthy land-owning bosses, would bring in Mexican workers to break the Filipino strike. And whenever Mexican workers would strike, Filipino farm workers would be brought in to break it. It was a cycle, an endless cycle of exploitation. And for decades, the growers divided and conquered, pitting Mexicans against Filipinos and against Japanese Americans and other ethnic minorities against other workers of color, just to avoid giving the workers what is rightfully theirs. But as mentioned, this all changed in 1965. And speaking of Filipino American history, I've actually had the honor of writing about Manong Larry Itliong's biography, achievements, and legacy for History.com, aka the History Channel. So if you haven't read it yet, I actually wrote about it. I wrote this article last year for his birthday, for Larry Itliong Day 2021. So if you haven't read it yet, make sure to watch it. Make sure to read it. Make sure to check it out after this video. I'll include the links down below. But for now, let's get back to our topic. How do we exactly, honor and celebrate Manong Larry's legacy? Now unknown to many, Manong Larry Itliong resigned from the UFW in 1971. He believed that the leadership under Cesar Chavez was veering away from the union's true mission to serve farm workers equally. His grievances leading to his resignation included the lack of support and recognition for the aging and the elderly Filipino American farm workers. By then, the UFW was overwhelmingly composed of the growing number of Mexican American farm workers. Manong Larry continued his mission to fight against injustices and to promote workers' rights even after leaving the UFW. This included traveling to defend and organize farm workers in other countries, like in Brazil and Chile. And also, he became an elected delegate in the 1972 Democratic National Convention in Miami Beach, Florida. And back home in California, Manong Larry keenly oversaw the completion of the Agbayani Village, a housing development for the retired Filipino farm workers. Sadly, Manong Larry Itliong passed away in February 1977 at the age of 63. He was survived by his wife and 7 children. In 2015, the Alvarado Middle School in Union City, California was officially renamed the Itliong Vera Cruz Middle School in honor of Manong Larry Itliong and his friend and fellow Filipino American labor leader, Manong Philip Vera Cruz. Today, the state of California officially celebrates October 25th as Larry Itliong Day in honor of Manong Larry's work and legacy of fighting for social and economic justice. Now, it is important for us to understand that the true legacy of Manong Larry and the success of the movement he helped lead could not be credited to one group or individual alone. We cannot deny the spirit and the strength of working together in solidarity that ultimately led to the success of the United Farmworkers movement. And that's why, honestly, for me as a Filipino American, it's quite disappointing for me to see that the efforts and the leadership of our Filipino Manongs, just like Manong Larry and Manong Philip Vera Cruz, be overshadowed or worse, forgotten. So it is really important for us not only to remember their names, but more importantly, to remember what they fought and stood for. But what exactly did the Manongs stand for? Our Filipino American Manong stood up for what we would now call social and economic justice, which means that if the Manongs were still alive today, many of them, if not all of them, would be at the forefront of many movements and fights against all kinds of oppression, such as racial discrimination, police brutality, and especially for the Manongs, standing up for migrants' rights and fighting against the abusive and unfair labor conditions. Because many of the things that our Manongs fought against back in the day, many of the things that Manong Larry himself dedicated his life to fight against, are sadly still happening today. So let us continue their enduring legacy of building community and standing in solidarity to fight against the injustices and exploitations in our society. Because like what I always tell my students and my viewers like you, history should not be a blind nostalgia for the glitz and the glamour of the past, while blindly ignoring the realities of today. It is very important for us to use history as a tool to address the present-day struggles of our community and to lay the foundations for a brighter future where there is genuine peace, prosperity, and freedom for our people. And that is how we truly honor Manong Larry and truly celebrate Filipino American History Month. And that is it for me today. So, let me know what you think about today's topic in the comments down below. And if you like this video and learn a thing or two, don't forget to like, share this video, comment down below, and please subscribe. And by the way, in celebration of Filipino American History Month, all of my books, coloring books, and ebooks are all currently on sale. So visit my website, kirbyaraullo.com, to order your copies today. And to learn more about our people's deep history and legacy here in the United States, check out the links below for my Filipino American History YouTube playlist. But of course, before we go, today's shoutout goes to Lonnie from Arizona, Pat from Maryland, Chachi from Hawaii, and my addings, Hannah and JR from Stockton, California. And of course, special thanks and special shoutout to my patron, Edward Nubius Tali. You all know that this video will not be possible, this channel will not exist without the love and the support of all my patrons and all my subscribers throughout these years, from all corners of the world. From the Philippines, from around Southeast Asia, to Europe, to the Middle East, and of course here in the Americas. Maraming salamat po, or in Binisaya, daghang salamat, in Kapampangan, dakalpong salamat, in Ilocano, agyamanak unay, and in Bahasa Sug, magsukol tuod kay mo. See you next time, or in Tagalog kita kits, and in Kapampangan, Miki Tix, and in Bahasa Melayu, Jum palagi,